Professor Miller here. Today we are going to be talking about case rounds, one of my favorite clinic activities. And I love case rounds because it's a chance for collective problem solving, collaboration, and community building through peer support and dialogue. Over the course of the semester, you will both present an issue for discussion to the group and engage in collaborative problem solving. This short presentation will cover the following topics. 1. The goals for rounds. 2. How to prepare for rounds. And 3. The structure for rounds. I have 4 primary goals for rounds. The first is to understand and adopt a system of reflection, learning, and problem solving that you can use throughout your legal career. And we'll talk more about what that system looks like in just a moment. 2. To surface common challenges that arise across different lawyering contexts. Critical perspectives emerge from the patterns you are going to be seeing in your own cases as well as the cases of your colleagues this semester. 3. Collective teaching and learning. Sometimes you can feel all alone in your struggle with a particular issue or problem in your cases. However, more often than not, you're not alone. You're not the only one struggling, and it can feel good to share that information and those experiences with your colleagues. And 4. To identify and explore different frames that impact your lawyering, your client, and the legal system. I'll talk in more detail later in the presentation about common frames that show up in our clinic work. However, it's important to note at the outset that in rounds, like the rest of clinic, we are going to be engaging in really important and brave conversations about the ways that culture, race, gender, sexual orientation, class, immigration status, power, and structures impacts us, impacts our clients, and also the legal system. While we want to be careful not to make assumptions or revert to stereotypes, we can't ignore these frames if we want to zealously represent our clients and practice client-centered lawyering. Rounds also demonstrates that even when we're new lawyers, we have a lot to teach and a lot to learn from others. You know more than you think, and you will be growing leaps and bounds this semester. It's pretty cool to realize that you have advice and information to share with your colleagues. Okay, so how do you prepare for rounds? Well, the first step is to identify a challenge that has arisen related to your lawyering and clinic that you think would benefit from group input. The most useful challenges are those that are focused on the attorney-client relationship, ethical issues, or strategic decision-making. Issues that are best left for supervision are those concerning detailed legal research or analysis that can't be explored sufficiently during a single round session. Next is to prepare and present the issue to your colleagues. You want to keep in mind that your colleagues don't necessarily know all of the intimate details about your cases or your projects. So this means you need to be ready to give the necessary background information about the client, the legal issue, or the larger context so your colleagues can understand the challenges that are being raised. Rounds are more effective when you've also taken time to think about how you will present the information in your case rounds. In past semesters, students have found it useful to use the whiteboard, PowerPoint, or handouts to synthesize information and present relevant background information to the group. Third, you also really want to think about your goals. What are your goals for bringing this issue to the group? What are you really looking for help with? Pardon me. And finally, have your case materials handy because you're probably going to need to refer to it during class. Sorry about that technology. Okay, structure. So round follows a very specific structure, and it might take a while to get used to it because we often want to jump right into problem solving. However, I believe this process is a good one for deep exploration of frames and goals, checking assumptions, collaborative learning, and exploring all possible options. The rounds framework is a structure for critical analysis and creative problem solving that you can take with you throughout your legal career. So, the first step is for the round leader to present their issue and necessary background information and context to their colleagues. Next, the The presenter explains what they're hoping to achieve in resolving their issue. In other words, they share what their goals are for the round session. 3. The rest of the class asks questions to clarify the issues and goals. Often your classmates will ask questions that you might not know the answer to, or that will unsurface assumptions that are being made. And that's okay. This process provides important insight on areas for future factual investigation and legal research. And it's only after we've completed steps 1 through 3 that we jump to lawyering strategies. It's only after everyone has a clear picture of the issues and goals that we can really move to collective problem solving. And if you try and jump there sooner, I will remind us that we have to wait and finish each of the preceding sections. So, first we generate all possible options to address the presenter's issues and goals. Try not to pass judgment just yet. Create a complete list of all of the possible choices. And then, once all of those options are on the table, we can evaluate them and think about the pros and cons of each. Next, if possible, you would then make a decision, even if it's a small one, like taking a first step to get more information to achieve the larger goal. And finally, we will reflect on the conversation and what we learn about the process, something you're very familiar with in clinic. So, to effectively describe the problem and generate options during rounds, you also need to be mindful of the context in which these issues arise. Each client which we have the privilege to represent this semester is unique, and it's important that we not make assumptions or revert to stereotypes. However, as has been discussed in our readings and in seminars, there are also a lot of substantive and structural frames that our clients repeatedly face. By frames, I mean the central organizing idea or lens through which everything, the facts, the law, root causes, solutions, relationships, and values should be examined and interpreted. Some common substantive frames that come up in our clinic work include things like adolescence. And this shows up in things like the capacity to direct representation, what we know about brain science, things like susceptibility to peer influence, impulsivity, risk-taking, short-term orientation and thinking, the impact of adverse childhood experiences, race and ethnicity, which may manifest in things like false perceptions of age, culpability, threat, or dangerousness for Black and brown children, the experience of policing as trauma, or the failure to properly diagnose or address pain and suffering. Trauma is another one, which may result in things like hypervigilance, hyperarousal, the use of coping mechanisms or self-medication, disability or mental health, which could impact our clients in terms of access to special education, accommodations, or the experience of ableism. Gender and sexual orientation, things like paternalism or gender norms could be at play in our cases or our lawyering. And finally, poverty, resulting in things like lack of privacy, transportation barriers, or access to quality and affordable housing. Some common structural frames we are going to encounter in our clinic work include things like power or essentialism. I like the definition of essentialism used by Professor Trina Grillo in their essay Anti-Essentialism and Intersectionality to understand this concept. Professor Grillo writes, "Essentialism is the notion that there's a single woman or a single Black person's or any other group's experience that can be described independently from other aspects of that person, that there is an essence to that experience. An essentialist outlook assumes that the experience of being a member of that group under discussion is a stable one with clear meaning, a meaning constant through time, space, and different historical, social, political, and personal context." Next is epistemic injustices. Epistemology in the legal context asks two dual questions. How is the law known? And how the law knows. In other words, how the law takes itself to know something or takes something to be true. And according to scholars Balakrishnan and Lausky, epistemic injustices are most broadly understood as wrongs to someone in their capacity as a knower. So, for example, when a member of a group that's structurally less powerful has their testimony devalued due to membership in that group. So as you contemplate your issues for rounds and present them to the group, I encourage you to be explicit about what frames may apply. Ask yourself, what facts or gaps in fact-finding exist related to the racial, cultural, gender, class, educational, or power dynamics at play? In other words, as you prepare for rounds, I want to challenge you to consider and name your own positionality vis-a-vis the client and also the system, and the client's positionality and personal or cultural history with respect to the system and the laws at play. Now, for those student attorneys who are not the rounds presenters, but are rather the audience participants, you should be asking questions about the relevant frames and helping the presenter to identify gaps or assumptions. I challenge everyone to be strategically and critically curious. Our colleagues might not yet have the answer to all of our questions, and like I said before, that is okay. This is good data for the presenter to have and will help them develop future investigative strategies. Being attentive to the context for which our rounds issues arise will help us all be more effective, client-centered lawyers. So good luck to all of you as you prepare for your rounds this week. I'm excited to engage in these conversations with you. And I'd like to give a special thank you to the presenters at the 2023 AALS Clinical Conference who provided much of the foundational material for this presentation. Thank you.